Oh yeah, oh yeah, we're live with the great Dean Obeidallah. Somebody just said, a friend of mine was like, "Oh, you guys are good together." I was like, "No, come on, you thinking of some other Dean? Dean Baker?
Is there another Dean?
I don't know. Is there?
There is many Dean. There's Dean Kane. I'm sure is a regular on your show. So from right, he's regularly between ice.
Why aren't there any like really influential right wing celebrities or Trump celebrities? They're like none of them work. They can't get anybody to sing for them. They can't get anybody to perform at the Kennedy Center. Like it seems like most artists are always more liberal, but really like almost nobody that's worth or that's still working supports Donald Trump.
Rock. Probably Kid Rock, right? He tours, right? I think he tours, and I think he probably still draws, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, look, overall, why you don't go into the arts, which is unstructured, I think, if you're really conservative, you like status quo and things institutionalized, and you don't risk it, and then you have to deal with people you might not like. It's a diverse group of people in the world. I don't think your brain gravitates towards it. I honestly don't think we're just wired differently, not better or worse, just wired differently.
So I want to ask you here. We are on I'm very happy to have you joining me, and I was on your show.
Is that a sock on the floor behind you? Is that a sock on the floor behind you? Is that
might be?
See, look at that. I like Pete. Pete keeps it real. There's no fooling with Pete. What I like about you, what was it in Scarface? What I like about you, Tony, there's no lying in you or something. No.
I'm in my childhood bedroom. It's just, my dad's kind of like extra room, his stuff here. That's probably his sock. But there was, when I did your show the other day, before we started filming, there was a rifle in the corner. My dad has a pellet gun.
And I didn't know where you were. You didn't tell us where you were on the show.
Oh, really?
He's got a gun, and this is alarming. I was very alarmed.
No, my dad's pellet gun. Like, I don't think he had it to shoot like groundhogs, but he can't bring himself to do it. I don't think he's ever fired it. It's just there because he was so mad that they were, attacking my mom.
You carrying that rifle, look like a proud boy on hunting season. Like that. It was very unnerving to see that.
Seriously, I look so much like a J6er. Like I can't go. I wanted to go to an ICE protest, but I was worried they might mistake me for ICE.
He's ICE. He's undercover. That's exactly what would happen. They would have been like, he's with them. I know you. So it's unreal what we're going through right now. Pete said Trump's fighting a multi-front war, which is not a good idea, domestically and internationally. It really is remarkable.
I feel like during the campaign, and maybe there was something in Project 2025 about it, but I do feel like that the imperialist aspirations are new. And I don't think anybody that supports Trump cares what he does if it's against something that he campaigned on. It's kind of a cult that way. But am I right to say that during the campaign, he really did make people think he's like the anti-war guy and didn't want to send troops in and attack other countries and America first kind of thing?
Sure. I mean, let's be honest, if he ran on a campaign of elect me, I will kidnap the leader of Venezuela, I will steal their oil, I will annex Greenland, I will dissolve NATO as a result, I will bomb 7 countries, I will threaten Canada, Mexico, and Colombia. He doesn't win because some of the young base of his want jobs and want life, and the idea of maybe going to war or increased cost. If he said, I'm going to do a massive tariff war, you're going to have big inflation. If he was at any of that, he lied about everything. And you wonder how much is he in control? I honestly don't know how much he's in control. I think there are hours of the day where he's lucid. And I think there's hours of the day, like someone else at his age, it's where he slows down and other people are controlling it. So,
you see that letter he sent to the Norwegian prime minister today about Greenland? And he seems like he's upset because he didn't get the Nobel Peace Prize, and everybody thought it was fake, which is crazy this far into living with this psycho malignant narcissist as our president that we still aren't quite sure if it's real, but it was real. He really wrote this letter.
He did. Look, the guy wants more prizes and trophies. It'll make him happy. If anyone watching, if you have an old trophy around the house, maybe something from Little League or ice hockey or cheerleading, let's gather it all together and send him like a massive amount of trophies. And maybe in return, he'll leave. Like, we'll give it, like, you leave, I'll give you, I got an ice hockey trophy. I was like in 6th grade. I was pretty good. I baseball won. I have some participation stuff. I'm willing, all of that, whatever, like, if we all gave it to him, like in a truck, and just showed up and that would be actually a good press thing. And you have the big truck show up and everyone's trophies. like dumping it down, then you get arrested for. But it would be a great moment and go, Donald, you can keep all these if you would leave, because I know Jimmy Kimmel offered it his stuff for ICE to leave. No, Trump, what will it take? We'll give you 1 year of Air Force One, all the fuel you want, no
There's
questions.
nothing that there's
Fly around.
He's insatiable. There's nothing we could give him all the awards and it still wouldn't matter. I think it's part of the problem. By the way, I don't really have that many awards or trophies. So is it stolen valor to steal somebody else's awards to give to him as well? I don't know.
In general, yeah, but not in this scenario. And I think it's good.
Okay.
I think there was a movie about Trump called The World Is Not Enough. Wasn't that a James Bond movie with Pierce Brosnan?
I think that's perfectly describes this guy's psychology. Unfortunately, we have to live in it. It is Martin Luther King Day when we're talking. Have we reached the promised land? Or I wonder what he would think if he's alive. What do you think of Republicans who quote him today?
They're lying, deceitful pieces of garbage who, look, America didn't like Martin Luther King when he was alive. Right before he was killed, his favorability was like in the 30s. So it wasn't like America came to like Martin Luther King. They're never going to come to like Donald Trump. The same people who are about white supremacy, because Pete, you touched on that earlier on my show. If Trump was going to invade, let's say, a country that was brown and black and let all the people be part of citizens, because I'm going to take Colombia and it's going to be ours, well, then all these brown people get to be citizens. His base would go ballistic. Greenland, 50,000 white people, mainly, although they're native Alaskans or native Greenlanders, perhaps they don't like the off-white ones. But to them, if he can justify it by its defense and furtherance of white supremacy, he gets away with anything. So if they don't like Martin Luther King was about equality. Martin Luther King would have supported DEI and affirmative actions and things that make up for the wrongs of the past, all things they hate.
Yeah, didn't he get rid of, like, there's free entry into national parks on Martin Luther King Day, and they got rid of that and replaced it with Trump's birthday, I think, maybe even, but definitely they just got rid of that. What a weird mean, cruel thing to do, but that's the point, right? Cruelty.
I think there was a theory, and it might be right, that we all died during COVID and this is hell. That's what I think this is. I saw that someone said that like a serious thing, and I'm like, that's actually kind of funny to look at it the way, because nothing makes sense. The guy Trump is ecstatic about a used Nobel Peace Prize. He is threatening Greenland. He wants to destroy NATO. Now, I wonder, we don't talk about it now, Pete. I mean, Putin's number one priority was destroying NATO. And the first time we talked about the connection of Trump and Putin, is that part of it? And it doesn't seem as much, but deep down, we just don't know. And we heard that I read that he's going to put Putin on the Gaza Development Colonization Board.
Yeah.
So he's going to put that on it. I think, Pete, on some level for us, honestly, in all seriousness, this must be what it feels like to live in Russia and oppose Putin. And at least here we can say it. There you go to jail, right? But to live in a place where it's a dictator or a tyrant, and the checks and balances of the Constitution have all been bullshit. We know that now. They should not teach the Constitution in school in America. You could teach it as a theoretical thing, but not there's checks and balances that prevent power. No, if you have a president who wants to be a king and a Republican Party like we do, and the Supreme Court like the Republicans do, there's no checks and balances. They should teach that, at least teach that. Here's theoretically the checks and balances, and here's the real world. When you have a corrupt political party that cares about nothing but power, you get a king in America. That's what we have.
Can I tell you a theory? I don't think it's working. Like, I don't think the project is working. I think that we have all these authoritarian experts, your Tim Snyder's, Ruth Ben-Ghiat, Heather Cox Richardson. They're all really smart. And I think they've been super helpful. I've interviewed most of them, and I think they've been right on. But I do think that what we're seeing in Minnesota is kind of the culmination of all these tactics. And I don't think that it's working. I actually think it's failing. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of ways, it's painful, and it's probably going to get worse before it gets better. But the overall project of scaring people to the point where they won't protest, to the point that they won't stand up for their neighbors, vulnerable communities, I think it's failing. What is your diagnosis of what we're seeing right now in terms of the resistance to this project, this authoritarian project?
I think the resistance in Minnesota is a template for the nation. It's peaceful, it's effective. You get out there. Heartbreakingly, Renee Good was assassinated and murdered by an ICE agent. But, you have people lining up in big numbers. They're being overwhelmingly peaceful. Like, you really don't see any kind of violence going on. And it's driving the regime really more and more ballistic. And you're seeing these shows of force by them. And like Greg Bavino walking around like a Nazi leader. Like it's
he had a special coat made.
I read, I'm not sure that's true. I did see that on social media. I want to believe it's true, but then Pete, like we've talked about, just because I want to believe it's true until I vet it, I can't believe it's true. But it did make sense to me. But I will say this, Pete, and the concern we should all take from this, the less popular Trump is, the less likely they allow elections in November that are full and fair, because they are going to lose control of everything. We could win the Senate. It's not unheard of where the map lays out, because you have open seats in North Carolina. You could pick up Maine. There was another seat that's full, Ohio, because you got Sherrod Brown running again. We could. Now, it's not huge control, but it's enough. I think there's a concern. There's no way for a president to single-handedly stop the election. There's no button. There's no part of the Constitution, but he can make it difficult as possible. And my concern is trying to rig it in advance. Second, involved in corrupt counting of the ballots. And third, trying to prevent the seating of Democrats who won congressional races, using all they can in the courts, any legal, to prevent the seating of Democrats who win their seats in Congress. So I think the more unpopular they get, the more dangerous they become. And that's the reality.
Yeah. And there certainly are unpopular, and they are becoming more dangerous. And November is a really, really long time away, given that every day seems to be a year-long worth of headlines, right? I mean, there's so much time between now and then for them and for us, for them to be more unpopular, as you say, and for us to continue to unify and organize. The concern, however, is that they get what they want, which is violence. And I said, I think on your show, like, I'd be a hard time if I'm ever on these front lines, the way people are in Minneapolis, and I wouldn't mind being there. I'm afraid if an ICE agent was hurting someone I love, care about, or even a stranger, that I would step in and do something and then spend a couple weeks or months in jail. And that's exactly what they want. And I'm surprised it hasn't been more violent from protesters and organized resistance, right?
So you're encouraging violence? Is that what you're saying? This is what this is all about? We're plotting for the...
I mean, I'm never encouraging violence. I do encourage people to do what it seems like Renee Good and other activists have done, put their bodies in their cars between ICE, Gestapo, and civilians. I do encourage that kind of non-violent resistance. I'm saying...
All right. I know what you're saying. I was being facetious when I said you were advocating violence.
By the way, if I did anything, I'd get knocked out immediately. Like before I even did anything, I'd just get knocked out and be that guy. And my video would go viral of me with my eyes open, but knocked out.
and we would play like in a loop. We would loop.
Oh, yeah. Like, you guys, you and John, if you were saying, everybody would have.
We would have so much fun. Look, I mean, part of me, it's not like there's a civil war coming. It's a different thing. We're not confronted by a mass of American people. We're confronted by a wannabe tyrant fascist, right? Yeah. That's what we're confronted by. Do I think, does history tell us this? There's a way to win this without military action? I have to be honest. If you look at history, it's hard to say that it could end without some kind of organized violence. I'm not advocating that as a student of history. But even the most famous, Mussolini and Hitler, it's because of World War II, the Allied powers, they were gone. Then what's unique is that we actually have a history of a democracy in this nation. And you hope there's enough of us, which I think polling shows that would demand it. And there's not enough military to oppress all of us and suppress all of us. The question is how many people are willing to risk things, Pete, or just go along, go like, he'll be gone in a few years. Just let him do that. And you don't fight it. And by then your democracy's got, your republic is gone. There's no more democratic republic. You just go from king to king. And if we ever get a democratic president, the base will demand they be just as bad as the Republicans, but for good. Like, forget, just sign Medicare for all by executive order. Forget Congress, like all that, which is fine. Okay, do that. But then what happened? Like, this ends. The experiment ends at 250 years.
One thing I get frustrated with is the criticism of Democrats, the constant do something.
Yeah, and I do that all the time. I say that.
Yeah, because I wonder, I used to listen, when it sounds like a right-wing media thing to do is to say do something and then not suggest what that thing is. A lot of commentators, influencers, content creators, whatever, progressives, they mean well, but they go after Democrats who have to do a tremendous amount of work just to get elected. And then once they're there, they don't have any power when they're in the minority. What is it that you think specifically the criticism of elected Democrats in Congress right now? Obviously, I'm no fan of Chuck Schumer and leadership in general, but what do you make of congressional Democrats and what they are doing and what they're not doing? Because some of them are doing, I think, great work.
they should be challenging Republicans to a pickleball tournament, because that is the way to really reach people. That, or I think something, a physical challenge, like an obstacle course type of scenario, because nothing else works. Look, Pete, I know I agree with you. Democrats can't pass legislation. They don't control the House. They're not committee chairs. They can't even do subpoenas without the chair's approval, right? So you can't do that. All they can do is fight in the media and be creative. And there are some. I always say the same thing here. I'd rather amplify the good Democrats, because we know who the ones who do nothing. But you go like, oh, there's some that are good fighters. We could probably name the same 25 or 30, even 35 Democrats who are fighters. The problem is there's 250 Democrats in the House and the Senate. That's the problem. Where are the rest? Some didn't get elected to be fighters. They've been in Congress for 20 years. They go back to their district. They do constituent work. They don't even go in the media. Like if you walk around Capitol Hill, what I'm amazed when I've gone to interview members of Congress, like at the Rayburn building, names of Democrats I've never heard of in my life. I'm like, who is that person? Yeah. Like they just go back to their district. They don't go on TV ever. They just do their job. That's why they got elected. That's all they want to be. And then you have the corporate Democrats. It's a whole different wing. Like that's a different people, the Wall Street ones. I think that this is a time when you need fighters and people. I think a lot of fear that where the stakes are so high, you want more. And yet people can't articulate all the time what to do. All they can do is go in the media, be effective, be creative, use independent media, do things we haven't. Like some Democrats went to Minnesota that aren't from Minnesota. From Congress. That's great. Go there. But Pete, the other thing no one talks about on our side much is that corporate media is pro-Republican. It is center-right at best, center-right. They're happy to see the news. Right. They are happy to see the narrative to Donald Trump. The challenge is for Democrats, not just being creative, but breaking through where a media wants to amplify center-right, even right-wing things, because the executives want the tax cuts and no regulations and mergers and all that bullshit. So there's a lot going on. I think Democrats be fighters. It's about tone. It's about people get it. Everyone likes Jasmine Crockett. Has she changed the role yet? No. But we like she's fighting. You like Jamie Raskin. I like, Chris Van Hollen. There's some that are great. They haven't changed the world, but they're fighting all the time.
I was down in DC a couple weeks ago, and I was at my car at like 7 a.m., 6:30 a.m. It was still dark. And I see somebody I recognize. I'm like, who is that? And I go, oh, it's Congressman James McGovern. So I say to him, and I know I've interviewed him years ago a few times, but not in a long time. So I just go to him, Dean.
What do you say?
I just go, McGovern. And he stops and looks at me and go, Congressman, you're doing a great job. Keep up the great work. And shook my hand, and he just kept walking. And he was just alone walking to work. And I just yelled at him who he was.
He probably thought he had to report that to Capitol Police. There was a weird-looking, Proud Boy-looking guy yelling McGovern at me the whole time, like McLovin. Would have been funny if he said McLovin. But look, he is good. I'm like, there's a guy, I don't know what he does outside of Congress, but when he gets in the well or the floor he's at the podium, very, very good. So we go like he's a fighter. I don't know. And to be fair, there are probably other Democrats who go back to the district, don't get any press, and are fighting the good fight every day. It's part of, if we don't see you, we don't know what you're doing. And that's that's the challenge.
He and Jamie Raskin lost kids. His, I think, daughter also died. James McGovern.
Oh, I know Jamie Raskin did. I interviewed him.
And I said to him also when he was walking away, I said, I'm so sorry for your loss. And then he looked back and he gave me the most endearing look. He's like, oh, you do know who I am. You're not just, I was like,
I didn't know he got lost child. That's heartbreaking.
He's in there fighting, and that's the point. I mean, these guys have had terrible tragedies, and it's humanized them. And you like to think that their colleague in Congress would acknowledge it and humanize them as well, but it's not that.
What do you want? I mean, are you happy with the way Democrats are responding when the stakes are this high? When you have Hakeem Jeffries over the weekend, people are freaked out about Minnesota, and he's posting about affordability, which is an issue. I'm not saying that is an issue. And ultimately, November, that probably wins the day. But how do you not sense where the nation is, where the stakes are, where the base is, and not be laser focused?
I think there should be more organized strategic media and PR campaigns where they do repetitive things every day, where they're organized and on the same message every day, this many days until, I mean, I'm up for anything that is a publicity stunt to get attention. And I'm up for them going to visit ICE facilities where their constituents might be detained. I'm going, wherever they can be on cameras. AOC and Jasmine Crockett, they just go on Instagram Live. They're good talkers. And I think that's effective. So using social media. So I just think a lot of them are doing a great job. I'm not a fan of leadership necessarily, but I think sometimes people, when they demand that Congress does a good job, I always want to say, well, what are you doing? What exactly are you doing? And I'm not saying those people aren't doing stuff. I always
respond by going, I'm not in Congress. I'm not in Congress.
Well, who are you helping get
I could do more. The only thing that the person in Congress can do more than you or I, they could demand attention and get it easier because they're a member of Congress.
Sure.
Like if I say, but even then, it's not like a member of Congress could say I'm having a press conference, and if they're not in New York City or a media capital, the local media shows up. Who else is covering it? Right?
You don't need to, but that's the thing with the media. You need to have a press conference. Just build a social media following by constantly talking directly to people. That's how Trump became, in many ways, very, very popular in terms of going around media and just messaging. Originally on Twitter, and now on his third-rate social media platform. Anywhere he just messaged right to his into the veins of it. And I don't think why we should be any different. Is it true that you're thinking about running for Congress?
I am thinking about it a little bit. I mean, but as a practical matter, I don't think it's within reach. But as wanting to go and use another platform to take the fight to Trump and to preserving our republic and fighting on the issues I care about, there's part of me, because I live in a district where there's an open seat and there's a race going on right now. I live in the 12th district in New York City, where Gerald Nadler's not running for re-election. And there's a bunch of candidates, the more traditional ones, who will probably, at the end of the day, their assembly people will probably win it all. But there's a little part of me that wonders, if I were to explore it, would I get more attention? And it's the internal debate. Like, where are you more effective? Like, where are you and I more effective? I just interviewed before I came on a Palestinian filmmaker. There's she's actually Tunisian, but it's about the voice of Hind Rajab, about a 6-year-old girl who was killed in the car in Gaza, and her family was around her. And they were all dead, and she called for the Palestinian Red Crescent. And I'm like, look, if I was in Congress, I probably couldn't amplify that story. I couldn't amplify my friend Shireen Dabbas's movie, a Palestinian movie a week ago, or some of my other things that I'm really passionate about that might not be political. And then again, maybe you can, but maybe you can't. So I have this push and pull about where am I most effective? And is it in the media? And is it, if I can raise my platform, my visibility, can I be more effective then? Or if somehow I ran and somehow won, would I be more effective there in amplifying the issues that I care about?
My concern is that you aren't effective at all. How do you feel about that?
I think so. I'd be neither effective in Congress or here in the media. So I've got that consistency. And, what I love about Pete is that we've known each other for so long. Because I was going to take a shot before, but I held you're like, these are the Democrats. They just talk to them, they talk to themselves. I'm like, oh, like your show. He just talks to himself. But I know there are some people who actually listen to this. People love Pete. Like when I look at this is the sincere truth. When I look at objectively at people who have moved up and that their platform is more visible to others, Pete should be huge. And I'm not bullshitting you. You're really good at this. But you've got a million things. You had your family, kids to raise, and all this other stuff. Some of the other ones didn't have that, I guess. But
not exactly Aaron Parnas. Kid doesn't leave his damn phone. Like, there's nothing at all talented about the guy. He just constantly posting shit.
And also, it's peer to peer, right? If you were 25 doing this where it's TikTok, like, you'd be blowing up. I mean, there's no doubt. If you look like that, if you look like the way you do now at 25, you'd be huge. It was like, what happened to Pete? Like, he's working nonstop for us. That's why
I have a huge following amongst old salty sea captains. Let me ask you just lastly about like just media in general. You are very effective in media and everything that you've done. I kid, but I think one thing that's important, as I was on your show with our friend Tara Dublin, and I fear that she and others go down conspiracy theories themselves. I've always kind of prided myself as being good at discerning this and then not platforming things. And I've gotten things wrong for sure, and it's embarrassing especially when you're on live radio back on Sirius XM or even CNN or anything. But the bottom line is, like, we're all vulnerable to falling for shit, and especially if we want to believe it, as you mentioned earlier. There's a new claim about Trump like raping someone when they were a child named Sasha Riley. I'll mention it because I think people should look into it and see how it's not been corroborated by any serious journalist. And if a serious journalist could corroborate it, it would make their career. I mean, who is it? Tara, what's her name, has done really good with all this Epstein stuff. And it's not conspiracy, it's corroborated. I mean, like, you can make a career by reporting reported on something. And then she also said the 2024 election was stolen. And I was like, neither of these things are true as far as I can tell. And
there's questions about 2024 that were never ever explored. That's a different thing. Like, it depends. For me, I can't reach the conclusion it was stolen. I can tell you with confidence there are real questions about the election, and we didn't get any recounts. And Democratic polling showed over 50% of Democrats had sincere questions. We weren't about ballots in suitcases. We wanted recounts. We wanted some audits. We got nothing because it was so jarring to lose all 7 battleground states. And that was, so we're like, how did this happen? This wasn't in any of the polling. So I think it was more intelligent questions about it all. Tara is very good. I think that there are times when we want to believe things. It's not about conspiracy. To me, conspiracy is like, it's really, there's a pizza parlor that has a child sex ring. And I'm like, okay, that's nuts. To believe that Trump may have been involved in a raping children or a rape ring with children, it's not unbelievable. The question is, you have to vet it. You have to look into it. Right. You have to look at it.
He's raped many, many people. We don't have to make a rape. And when we do, the outlets or the individuals lose credibility by making something up that's easily debunked. We don't need to, because we have all this evidence on this or that.
But things could end up being like, some of these things that are called conspiracies sometimes become true because they're not really conspiracies. People get dismissive of it when you say it's conspiracy. In the case of, all I say is to my fellow liberals, the same thing I would say to someone on the right if they would ever listen to me. Look at the source. Yeah. Just don't share it because you like what it says. Look at the source. If it's a reputable source, the problem is our definition of reputable has changed too. Yep. On the right, they're like, oh, it was in Breitbart. I'm like, and what's your point? Like, that's not reputable. But right. To them, it was in, Ben Shapiro said in his podcast. Okay, that's bullshit to me. So I have different standards for what is believable and it's not. Same thing on, like, if you're going to send me an article that was written by a blogger for like Daily Kos, let's say it's not vetted, it's not one of their actual writers. Yeah. I have to go check it in other places before I'm going to share it with anyone. But I'm also a lawyer by training, or I used to go to court and try cases. You check everything. You never want to say something in a courtroom that's not true. It ruins your case, ruins your credibility. You get disbarred if you did it intentionally. So I have a very high standard about what I do. I really recommend people critical thinking, question it, look at the source. It's better for your credibility because you just one time you have bad credibility on an issue. Yeah. Everyone questions you going forward from then on.
Yep. Exactly that, which is why yours is still intact, and you can hear Dean every night on Sirius XM and continue doing great work, introducing us to awesome voices and platforming all kinds of really smart, passionate people who are fighting the good fight as you have been for a long time. I'll let you go, but I don't want to.
Well, Pete, thank you very much. And thanks for being on my show Friday.
Anytime.
And I wish you the best with your stuff, and I hope you clean the room up before your next guest because he's got socks. I'm not even sure what that other thing is, and it's a tricycle. No, that's a treadmill of some sort or a sex toy. I'm not sure what that is.
That's my dad's sex swing. It's a rehab sex swing.
Perfect. All right, Pete, thank you. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it, brother.
Absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody.